Welcome back to Devi Daly Yoga. This is an intermediate Yin Yoga practice for people who have some experience with Yin Yoga. So you'll want to be sure that you know how to modify poses for yourself. And if you don't know that stuff yet, then check out my other more beginner level Yin Yoga videos. So we'll begin with a groin stretch, and this will be 2.5 minutes in your choice of a groin stretch. It might be butterfly pose like this, might be dragonfly pose with the legs wide, or if you're familiar with any of the other straddle poses in Yin, then you can take any of those for this 2.5 minute stretch. I'm going to do the ones that I tend to like the most, and also use my blocks under my forearms, which is totally optional. You could use anything under your forearms or nothing at all. Some people like to rest the forearms and elbows. Some people like to rest the head on something a little bit higher. Frog pose is a pose you could do here instead. Beginning to soften into the pose and to soften and relax into your breath. Welcoming sensation, whatever is here, whatever you're feeling. If you're in the dragonfly and it's hurting you, then take the butterfly instead, or take a different groin pose. None of these poses are intended to hurt you. If you're having any pain, it's a sign that you should do a different version of a pose or a different pose for the same target area. And releasing and slowly bringing your legs together, coming into a hands and knees position, taking child's pose. Breathing in child's pose. And coming up to hands and knees, moving into dragon pose with your right leg coming forward. And dragon pose with both hands on the ground. It could be on the inside of the foot or either side. Some people like to do this one, hand on the knee. So many versions of dragon pose. So all of them stretch the front of the thigh on your back leg. This back left leg. If you want to take it a step further, since this is our intermediate level practice, we can take it into this dragon tail pose, reaching your right hand back. Sometimes people get confused which hand goes back, and it can also feel nice to do the other hand back, but there's a little more balancing involved in that version. So we're taking the right hand back to hold the left foot. And then I'm going to walk my left hand farther out to the side because I like to feel the back bend here. And that's going to help me feel the back bend here. Sending the skull back in space, sending the right shoulder back in space. Sending my left hip forward. Keeping the breath steady. Releasing, stepping back now into downward dog, or your choice of how to transition. And dropping the knees to come into second side, left leg forward. Maybe again the hands are here on the floor inside the foot, maybe they're here on either side of the foot, or one elbow on the knee and one hand on the ground. This is my other favorite variation is to take the right hand way out to the side and keep the back leg down. Otherwise, if you're up for grabbing the tail, it's the left hand coming back now to hold the right foot. Maybe walking that hand on the floor farther out to the right to help hold your weight in more of a back bending shape if you like that. So the primary target area for our stretch is the front of the right thigh and the front of the right hip. But always when we stretch this region, we're also to some degree back bending. And here when we come into this version, we're just kind of emphasizing the back bend a bit more. And releasing your dragon pose, coming into downward dog once again. And dropping the knees, coming into a seated position. And next is your choice of caterpillar or snail pose. So caterpillar, sitting with both legs in front, bending forward over the legs with as much lift under the seat as you'd like, or snail pose, sending the legs up and over the head, making sure you don't have anything under your head, of course, and no ponytail or anything in the way. Feet may or may not come to the ground, and if they don't, that's fine. As long as you're getting the stretch in the back body. This is a stretch of the whole back body, and the pose, the Sanskrit name of the pose is the stretching of the west side of the body, Paschimottanasana, the seated version. Stretching the whole west side, the whole back side of the body. And I like to usually have my hands above the head, but if you like to have them down at your sides or clasp the hands, that's also yin. It's all yin. The arm position doesn't quite matter. I mean, it matters, it makes a difference, but there's not any rules about the arm position. And whichever pose you are settling into what you're feeling, bringing full awareness to the sensations of stretching, compressing, breathing. And now slowly rolling out of the pose, or if you're in the seated version, or all just making our way onto our backs now. Rest on your back for 1 full minute. Not a full minute, half a minute. Half a minute, since this is a shorter practice today, but going deep with this shorter practice. And next we stretch into the outer hips, so you can either do figure 4 pose on the back, right ankle over the left knee like so, or make your way up to sit and take shoelace or square. I'm not going to run through all the versions today, but you can take the square with the knees wider, or shoelace like me, right knee over the left. If you're maybe advanced beginner, just starting to learn about yin, you might be interested to know that there are these families of yin yoga postures, or sometimes called the archetypes of yin, that are kind of interchangeable. So when I say to do a pose to stretch your glutes, once you get more familiar with the practice, you'll have a toolbox of 3 or 4 postures to choose from, and you don't always have to do the one that I'm doing or the one that any yin teacher is doing. Once you get yourself pretty familiar with all these tools in the yin yoga toolbox. Just like our earlier forward bends, support under the head or under the forearms might be something that you like to do here. And slowly come on up. Take just a moment, a few moments to sit with the spine upright, the eyes closed. Notice what you feel. And change sides. So we are practicing our Yin Yoga in the functional way, the functional approach, and I am gradually building a community of yogis here who know what I mean when I say the functional approach. And it means that we go for how the pose is supposed to feel rather than how it's supposed to look. And so I'm making sure that I feel this pose in my glutes, particularly my left glutes when my left leg is on the top. And I'm not too concerned about if my feet are equally out to either side, or if my knees are immediately on top of each other or a little wider. It's really not important. None of that's important as long as I'm not hurting my knee and as long as I'm getting the stretch in the place where it's supposed to happen. And if I'm unable to do that, then that means it's not a good pose for me, or it's not a good version of the pose for me, and I need to change something up. And slowly coming up, making your way into saddle pose or Sphinx or seal pose. So a back bend, symmetrical back bend, you might do this. This is your mellower choice. Saddle pose is coming on to sit on top of the feet or in between the feet and then come back. And you could be here today. You could sit between the feet instead. If your knees are up for it, please listen to your knees and don't do this if your knees tell you not to. It's not good for everyone's knees. Some of you might come all the way back on the elbows. Whether you're sitting on top of the feet or in between the feet, you can come back as long as the knees are okay with it. And a lot of people like to do this resting back on a bolster or blocks because it's just not possible to come all the way back. So please get your bolster or your blocks under you, as much lift under you, as much pillow, or as much furniture even under you. And I'm gonna work with my blocks today because even though I do go all the way onto my back, when I'm in between my feet, I prefer the back bend stretch here when I'm on top of my feet. And our target area here is in the front of the body, the quads and the hip flexors, and in the back of the body, the sacrum and the lower back, the lumbar spine. And slowly coming out of your posture. You might be comfortable untucking a leg, or else you might have to do this awkward extracting yourself from the pose. And one more posture on the back, twist. So easy twist on the back or cattail pose. And we'll take the, let's do the right knee up and over for cattail. So this is your easy version. You could have both knees bent if you prefer, or just do the one knee. And if you're going for the cattail, then from here you're bending the back leg up, holding on to the left foot with your right hand. So if you get confused, it's opposite right hand to left foot, and it's the bottom leg that bends up. And now, in order to get the twist to bring your right shoulder back, you might be comfortable doing it without a prop, or you might want to have a pillow under the head like me. You may also want to prop something under your right foot or knee or both. So I'm calling this an intermediate practice. It's an interesting word because I know many highly experienced and evolved yogis who don't do this pose, who don't like this pose. So I guess when I say intermediate, I mean that I want you to know that you have alternatives and that I don't want you struggling on your mat to try and do this pose that I'm doing if it's not right for you. And so intermediate means you know you have that level of self-awareness of your body and of the way your mind reacts to yoga practice, that you know that you're just going to be better off with the simple twist, that that's what your body responds to better. And you don't need to struggle with this one. And releasing back to the center. Pause at the center. Straighten out your hips and your shoulders. Rest your knees against each other. Rest your hands on your belly. And take it over to the second side, both knees to the right, or right leg straightening down and just the left knee coming over. Choice number one here. I guess it's choice two because I said for both knees. Could be to the side, that's choice one. Anyway, you get what I mean. Take a twist to the other side. Your twist. The twist that makes you happy. smooth and steady breath. And releasing and coming into your Savasana, final relaxation pose, spreading out in the star shape or any version of a resting pose that you'd like. And sometimes they say this is the most important pose, which sometimes I don't always buy it after certain practices. But after a yin practice, I kind of do buy it, and I will perpetuate that saying that this is the most important pose, because the postures are meant to stimulate and release the energy that we are now really fully experiencing. The chi that flows through this body, through the spine, everything that's been awakened in this system, and the healing response and the relaxation response that have been stirred and stimulated now, all of this is flowing through, flooding through this being, this body, in this moment. And bending the knees now, and rolling over onto the side, slowly and gently make your way up to sit. And finishing with 3 chants of Om. Bring the palms together in front of your heart. Exhale the breath. Lift up through the crown of your head as you inhale. Om. 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 Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this practice worked for you as well as it did for me. And if you liked it, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, check out my latest Yin Yoga video, and leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if anything was particularly interesting, challenging, or yummy for you. I'd love to hear from you. And I will see you next time.